Hello, everyone. It's Rue from the Aftershock EpiCenter live stream every Tuesday. Before we start the happy hour, I just want to remind you that we had two brand new titles that came out yesterday for New Comic Book Day on April 13th that you do not want to miss. First up is Midnight Rose, the 64-page Perfect Bound one-shot from Jim Starlin, as well as Kaiju Score Volume 2, Issue 1. So make sure that you pick those up as soon as you can, and let's get to the show. Done. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Aftershock Happy Hour and Live Sale. I'm your host and the communications specialist here at Aftershock Comics, RuthAnn Thompson. I'm very excited for the show. Hopefully you all have poured yourself a drink, and we're going to have an epic time with James Patrick as well as our live sale. But first up, we're going to speak to our ambassador of the month, who is covering our Pittsburgh area, Justin Macuga. Hello, good sir. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. Thanks for asking.
I'm good. I'm so glad to have you on the show. Cheers to you, sir.
Yeah, cheers.
And cheers to everybody I already see in the chat. Second Street Marvel, good to see you here. So, Justin, congratulations on being our ambassador of the month. Thank you so much for all your hard work.
Yeah, thanks.
And tell a little bit for all the people watching, how did you become an Aftershock fan?
Well, the pandemic hit in early, 2021. I was looking for something to do, like a hobby, right? So I had been a collector of comics back in the 90s. And then I just kind of shelved it for, years and years and years. And then over the course of the pandemic, I was like, why don't I found comic books in my house, and I was like, why don't I start back into comics? It would give me an excuse to kill some time, right? So along that sort of journey, a friend of mine told me about the Aftershock program, and he said, listen, you got to check these guys out. It's a great company, tons of awesome stories and stuff. And that was the first time I heard about Aftershock. And then I just applied, and you guys accepted me, and here I am.
And the rest is history. Well, good thing
History.
that the check went through for that friend. Glad that worked out. Just kidding. Yeah. So in your own words, tell us a little bit about the program, what you do, and the shops that you cover.
Sure. Yeah, I cover the general Pittsburgh area. I've got 8 shops, and I visit. I stop by all these shops. We always have swag handy, so I'm always giving them comic books and sometimes markers, sometimes mouse pads, sometimes any and all different sorts of things. And then just chat, chat Aftershock, chat comic books. And I end up having some really cool and fascinating conversations with people who really dig our brand, and that I didn't know about. That there were all these fans in and around the area that dig Aftershock. So it's always a pleasure talking comics and stuff with all these people. And I make it a point to not just visit during my visitations. I try to visit these guys at least 2 times a month, just to let everybody know that I'm serious, we're serious, and we're serious going forward with the brand.
Yeah, it's great to be able to, just like you said, just talk comic books, talk shop, and then you make a little money on the side to then spend on comic books. So
Exactly.
It all comes together.
How'd you know that?
Kind of one of the best perks of the job. And Eddie, so we have Rudy Vela here, another one of our ambassadors. Hello. So he he just wanted to say that he forgot his headphones, so he'll be back to visit us later, but wanted to say hi. And then for you, what as an Aftershock fan and a comic book fan in general, what are your top Aftershock picks for this last month?
Well, We Live was really interesting piece of comic lore this past month. It was a really interesting thing by the Miranda brothers, and cool story, nice thing where they had 2 different comics with different stories, but gonna sort of pyramid into number 2 and whatever else. that was super, super exciting for me and for the people that I serve, Kaiju Score, I'm super stoked about. I dug the first run, and I'm interested to see what happens next.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So for all of those people watching, where can they find you on the social media?
Yeah, I'm on my comic blog is a Twitter feed. It's called JMac Comic. My name's Justin Macuga, so J for Justin and Mac for Macuga, JMac Comic. I'm always posting stuff about comics I like, comics that are coming out, Aftershock stuff, of course. But yeah, check me out on Twitter.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Justin, for joining us today. And
Yeah.
speaking of Kaiju Score, for all those watching, stick around. We're just going to have a quick commercial break, and then we're going to bring in James Patrick to talk to. Thanks again, Justin.
Thanks.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to remind you that we have another happy hour coming up on May 12th with the unstoppable artist for all of our variants here at Aftershock for our happy hours, Mike Ruth. So make sure to add it to your calendars for Thursday, May 12th at 5 p.m. Eastern. Pour yourself a drink and we'll have some fun. And now let's get to interview James Patrick. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So now we are ready for our special guest for this episode. We have the just groundbreaking breaking writer, James Patrick. Hello, sir. How are you today?
Pretty good, RuthAnn. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. I have been so excited I've been wanting to have you on this happy hour show since Kaiju Score. I can't wait to talk to you. And now we have so much more to talk to you about because you have so many more titles with us. But to start off with, we always like to see how people kind of got started in this industry. So for you, what was the first comic book that you remember, reading and just saying, you know what, I want to do this?
When I was I'm not gonna say too young to read comics, but when I was really young, I used to buy Star Wars comics, and I used to cut out I used to cut out some of the panels and some of the characters like Han Solo, and I would arrange them and tell my own stories. So I wasn't really reading them yet, but I was like making stories out of them. And those are kind of the first comics I remember were some Star Wars comics, and getting them and just looking at the art and thinking they were like the coolest things ever. Um, and then I started with some later issues of GI Joe at some point, actually reading, and you know, I I I I kind of got into the whole Marvel thing where I went from GI Joe, and then I started picking up X-Men, and then I picked up Spider-Man because they did such a nice job of referring to other things in the universe, and I was like, oh, I gotta go over here and read this, and I gotta read that. And I just started reading comics. I just never stopped, and then the rest is a love affair between me and comics. So
Yeah, Marvel was very, very good at that. At so many crossovers, you're like, well, now there goes my bank account because now I
yeah,
get this run, and it all ties together. So you got us, Marvel. You did it. That is so cool that you actually. I know, like, there are probably some collectors out there cringing at the fact as a kid you were cutting out, comic books. But like, you always hear of a lot of kids that do that with, action figures and that sort of stuff, and they just kind of say it out loud. But I love that, like, you almost were just creating your own comic book and your own like alternate universe with all these characters. That's so cool. And then what got you started in the industry as a writer?
well, I started writing short stories like prose, and I never really stopped collecting comics or buying comics and reading comics. During college, I took some time off, and then when I started writing more heavily, I just gravitated to the thing I love to read the most. Even though I'd started writing short stories, I just gravitated to comics, and I started writing scripts. Um, and one thing led to another. I started going to conventions, and then I hooked up with an artist. At the time, it was like now he's like a great webtoon and cartoonist. DJ Kaufman was like the first person I ever hooked up with, and it just snowballed from there. It really snowballed from there. So it just, I loved writing and I loved comics, and at some point it just seemed natural that that's what I should write. So that's what I started doing.
Yeah, and for all those out there, and obviously anybody that's here in the chat, please ask any questions and I'll read them off to James. But for all those watching who want to get into this industry, whether it is, storytelling or the artwork or anything like that, but specifically for writing, for you, what kind of advice do you wish that somebody gave you? And what advice, if it would be different, would you give those who are coming up in the industry?
Um, what's tough is that the industry is always changing, and the advice to break into the industry 15, 20 years ago is now a little different. For a long time, how you used to, the advice I would give to people to break in for forever was, you got to make your own comic. And then what you have to do is you have to network. Those are like the two primary things if they want to break into comics, is to make your own comic and network. And I'm very poor at the second one, honestly. I don't go to enough cons, and I didn't do that a lot. But so, take advice from me and don't do don't follow what I didn't do. Do it right. But yeah, what you do is I used to tell people you make comics and then you take them around and you meet people and you hand the comics to editors and you hand them to other people and you just sort of network and you just kind of get your name out there and your work out there. Now that has changed over the last. I'm not. It still applies, but there's an element of social media now that's different, and there's also an element of, you see a lot of people coming over from other industries. They make their names in other mediums, or so just social media in general, or Kickstarters and stuff like that. And so, the advice is different now, and the more of those things you can do, the better. That's what I wish I had done was go to more cons. I think I would have gotten more work and jobs earlier in my career. But what I did right was I made comics. So
Yeah, do the work and network. It sounds like what your kind of your biggest note from that. And luckily for all those coming back into the industry, conventions are coming back. So this is a good time to start, going to cons, networking, and just finding the right people to talk to, like you said, the editors and whatnot. So that's all awesome. Well, since you've done so much incredible work with us, let's jump into it because I have so many questions for you, and hopefully our audience does as well. So starting off, you joined us with Kaiju Score. Now this is, I call you groundbreaking because it's almost aggravating how good you are at grabbing two different genres that shouldn't go together and making them work. And like, it's one of those things, it's like they come together and like, why didn't I think of that? So Kaiju Score, and I'll briefly describe it, but first up, before the first issue even came out, we had the Sony Pictures actually pick it up to be a movie, which is so cool. But this is a mashup of basically a kaiju Godzilla movie meets a heist movie, kind of like bringing it together. So I would love to hear from your words how you would describe this title for anybody who missed out on the volume one.
I keep going back to this, and people keep using it, and it's the best. It's really the best way to describe it, because it kind of right at the point of attack here is that it's a Quentin Tarantino movie taking place in the corner of a Godzilla movie. And that works because people instantly know what they're getting when they hear that. And it's small in some ways with the characters and how you isolate them, and then it's big on the backdrop with the monsters. And if you look at something like Reservoir Dogs, it all takes place in like one location. That doesn't happen in this. But what I mean is, you kind of get this isolation into the crime, and then kind of in the background, all this other stuff is happening. So for people, that's how I always explain it, and that's always connected with people. So I've stuck to it. Unfortunately, some people have taken it literally, and they've asked me. They said, "I thought Quentin Tarantino was doing your movie," and I said, because they say, because I would say it's a Quentin Tarantino movie in a Godzilla movie, and they're like, Quentin Tarantino's doing it. No, he's not literally doing it. I'm trying to explain to you that it's like.
Yeah, this is the flavor. And even Forrest Bates in the comments says that that's a perfect pitch.
Yeah. So
it explains
that's how people. And and there's a lot of swearing. So.
And there's a lot of swearing, yeah, just like a Quentin Tarantino movie. And what I love about this is a world where kaiju attacks are basically as common as hurricanes and that sort of stuff. So it's a part of the news. It's just kind of a part of life. And the main character kind of thinks he's figured out that he can time out because of like the way that the currents go and what kaiju eats when a kaiju will actually appear in Florida and attack a very specific area that has a museum, art museum that they're going to rob. And I do love the fact this main character is so fantastic of the point where he is a great crook. Like he's so good at his job, but except he always misses, like it's always a decimal point or just that one little detail that can like completely ruins the whole job. So for you, where did this character come from and what kind of inspired it for you?
Yeah, he has a lack of attention to detail, so I would say that I kind of inspired him. Sometimes I can focus on the big picture instead of the details sometimes. And I think everybody's guilty of that. What's interesting is that Michelle was actually Michelle, who is the protagonist more so of the second series, was in an early draft. She was the protagonist of the first series, and I didn't really want to focus on her yet, so I went over to Marco, and I found that quirk for him. I found that each one of them, of course, has a problem, has a thing that they have to overcome. And I just put some of myself, and I think anyone into Marco, which is anyone who knows the lack of details can hurt a project. And so that's where I came up with that little thing for him. And he's just a guy that doesn't want to waste his potential. And I think that goes back to everyone too, is he feels that he can do something and he's never quite been able to do it, and he doesn't want the clock to time out on him being able to do that thing. So that's Marco in a nutshell, is those two things. But he's his own worst enemy. So
As we all are at the end of the day. So how did you come up with this idea? Because it's like I said, once you put them together, you're like, oh, obviously they go together. But so for you, like, were you watching, a Godzilla type movie, or were you watching what kind of came first? How did this kind of come together for you?
Well, I was reading a lot of Parker novels by Richard Stark, and they're just many of them are classic heist stories, and they're so well written. And the Parker character is wonderful. He's just a straight, sort of no nonsense guy, kind of like Reacher. People will know, Reacher is kind of an evolution of Parker. But I was reading a lot of Elmore Leonard. I was reading a lot of Richard Stark, and I was like, man, I really want to do a contemporary heist, like a book that's different and do a heist. Or I just wanted to do a heist story, and I'm like, you can't just do a heist story now. I mean, if you just do a heist story, every heist story has been done, except for the zombie heist, which of course, Zack Snyder did. But my idea came out, but I had that idea for Kaiju for a long time before. But anyway, so I wanted to do a heist story, and I do not know. At some point, I saw a book about a kaiju, just a kaiju book, and then it like hit me, and I'm like, oh, that'd be really cool if like some people were trying to pull off like a crime during it. And believe it or not, Battle Royale had a little bit to do with it too, the movie Battle Royale. And you could never make the connection with Battle Royale, but I liked that there were a whole bunch of stories going on in Battle Royale and how there was this bigger thing at play, but they focused on these little things. And then I just added some what I felt was some Tarantino style, because I love Tarantino. So I added some of that, and what came out of it was Kaiju Score. And I really think that the secret ingredient is with Kaiju Score, and I tried to do it in Campisi too, is that it's not really about the monsters, and that's what makes it work for me, but it's about the characters, and then the monsters are like one element that happen to be there. So the real focus, it's 80% this, and it's kind of 10 and 20% monster. And you could still have a heist and just kind of replace the monsters, which of course you don't want to exactly be able to replace them, but it works because I think I lean on that the crime more than I lean on the monsters. That's what makes it work for me. Now somebody else could come along and balance it out more, or balance two genres more, and then they can make that work for themselves. But for me, I need those monsters, and the best way, Campese is a better way to explain it. And in Campese, it's basically a mob story and a story about a neighborhood that just happens to have a dragon. So that's like the best way, is that the dragon is really, he's driving the story, but at the same time, it's basically 90% mob story, 90% this, and then, there's a dragon over here.
Yeah. Before we get into Campese, because that was a perfect segue into it, but I did want to grab Second Street Marvel did have a question that works perfectly. Is there a specific genre you prefer writing?
Yeah, I would say crime. And I try.
And why is that?
I think I gravitate to crime more than anything, and I just love shows like Justified, and I love Elmore Leonard stuff. Of course, Justified is based on an Elmore Leonard character, but Elmore Leonard stuff like Be Cool, Get Shorty, and the Stark stuff, and the Hitman series. There's just something about it that I'm a huge fan of Bendis. Bendis put those elements. Bendis put those elements in his books early, and and Brubaker, and I just always gravitated to that as well. Crime and pulp isn't really a genre. Pulp is kind of a platform for different genres, but the pulpy aspects of things I really gravitate to. So I would say crime, and after that, horror.
Which makes absolute sense from what you said of like cutting out the Star Wars comics, because you even mentioned like your focus was Han Solo, and like Star Wars, the original series is all like, if you're going to describe anything as pulpy, it's very pulpy in its own way. And then to focus on like, a smuggler crime guy, that it all makes sense for what you've been doing. So let's get into Campese. As you said, it is another incredible genre mix of, mob boss life and a dragon. So where did you get this concept from?
I don't know. I don't remember that it evolved so slowly that I can't even put my finger on it. I think Campese might have been around before Kaiju Score, but I'm not sure. I think they kind of were around the same time. And the ideas for them are old. I mean, 7 to 10 years old. So I don't know where. I can say this, and I'm from Youngstown, Ohio, and Youngstown, Ohio is infamous for being, one of the things it's infamous for is it was a mob town long after the mob towns went away. And that was all around me in card games and things going on. And then I of course love movies like Goodfellas and The Godfather. And so I just wanted to put a dragon in with a mob story, so I did. But you say that, but you really need a story. You need a character. You need, and of course, Campese, the character stuck between the people in the neighborhood who he loves and a mob boss that is a little more violent and not as good to the people as the mob boss before him. So he's kind of torn between these two things. And I can say all day that I just want to throw a dragon in there, but the truth is it starts with that story. Or at least at some point that story has to work. And when I got those two things, then I realized that that's the story I wanted to tell.
Yeah. And one of the bigger differences between Kaiju Score and Campese is that this big beast, this dragon, is actually intelligent, can speak, and has like a motivation. So where did that character come from for you? And just like I've always been obsessed with dragons. That was actually the first tattoo that I wanted to get when I was 12, but not yet. So for you, like where was it? Why is it specifically dragon, and kind of the character build of this? Because again, this is a world where dragons have always existed, but there's only a very few left.
I don't know why it exactly was a dragon. I think it all kind of meshed together at one time. But what I do know is what made me really want to write the book was the idea that the dragon and the mobster could talk, and that they could interact, and that they could have this relationship, and they could find things in common, and there would be honor involved, and And so, the idea of the dragon talking was a necessity. So that's where the dragon talking came from. The dragon itself, I'm not sure. Again, it's cool to put a dragon in there. It kind of works. I like the idea of a dragon flying into a Brooklyn style neighborhood, kind of living somewhere like on a construction site or something, and people being like, hey, there's a dragon here, we got to get rid of it.
Yeah.
That was it. That could happen. Well, it can't happen, but in this world, that could happen. And so I don't remember where exactly. That was a little more organic, but I needed the dragon to talk for it to work because it was the only real element from that fantasy. And unlike Kaiju Score, where you have an ensemble, Campisi is really about one person's journey. So he's going to have to interact with this creature somehow, and you got to give the creature a personality. You've got to give Sunny a personality, and these personalities have got to they've got to act. They've got to act off of each other. And well, you can see the Italian coming out of me with my hands here. So
Yeah. And yeah, I love the fact that the dragon basically gives a warning, and says like, I'm here, you have this much time to get out before I just kill you all. Like, 'cause this is my hood now, get out.
And that's one of the things that I really enjoyed coming up with was the fact that maybe the dragon is one of the most honorable of all of them. Despite what he's going to do, he doesn't want to do it. He feels conflicted in doing it. He wants to live honorably like the dragons before him, but unfortunately, terrible things have happened to him. He feels this is his only recourse. So.
Yeah. And backing up a little bit before we start talking about Kaiju Score Volume 2, which just came out yesterday. Kaiju Score Volume 1, before the first issue even came out, was picked up by Sony Pictures to be a motion picture and is being written by the Gunn Brothers. So tell us a little bit about that. How does that feel to have your story is going to be on the big screen?
I'm really excited. It was so nice to have that happen before the book came out, because what it did is it gave us a lot of momentum coming into the book, and I think it did some things that I just think we had more momentum coming in. Because of that we got it in front of more eyes, and I feel really good about Kaiju Score. I'm really proud of it. I don't say that about everything that I write, but sometimes you swing for the fence and you miss. Kaiju Score, I've felt really good about. I love the style. I loved how it turned out. So the fact that we could get that momentum coming in and just get it into as many hands as possible was really beneficial, and I just was completely relieved. And as for the movie, I'm excited to have the movie come out. But I do approach it like I've done my part and I've written my story, and Rem did his part, and Aftershock did their part, and we put out a really good book. And we always have that. So whatever happens with the movie, we have that, and the rest is just icing. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it, and I'm super excited for it. But at the same time, I try not to get my expectations up about anything, because this is a crazy business and you never know what's going to happen, So having said that, I don't know of anything about the movie too in depth. I stay in my lane in that a little bit, and I let the people who handle the movie, and because they don't tell me how to write the comics, so I don't bug them all the time saying, hey, what's going on with the movie? Maybe in my next few movie deals, I'll get more involved or whatever. But right now, I just check in every once in a while and just see what's going on. And so far, everything seems great. So I'm just really excited. And if it happens, it happens. And if it's great, it's great. So.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it, because what better, platform for this to be on than a movie, since it's based on like two genres that are very movie based. And for all news about that, make sure everybody who's follows us on Aftershock Comics as well as Aftershock Media, because that is where it's coming out of as well. So moving on to Kaiju Score Volume 2, which is Steal from the Gods. We had first issue come out yesterday, and you mentioned before that now Michelle is the leader of this, but we have another twist added to it. So tell everybody about this next volume and what kind of adventure we're going to be on this time.
Well, what was fun about this, and I mentioned this a little bit before, was that Michelle had originally been the protagonist of the first series. And I felt like there was, there was a lot of material there with her. And she comes out of the first Kaiju Score in probably the most dramatic place of all the characters who lived. She comes out of the most dramatic. She comes out in the most dramatic place, and there's probably the most interesting story to tell is what happens to Michelle after the first Kaiju Score, and she puts her own crew together, and she's going to see what a pain in the butt that is, and like what a pain in the butt she was for Marco. She's going to run into these same problems, and you know, the heist is bigger, the monsters are bigger. In the first one, they were pests, and if you were going to say, oh, okay, well, these kaiju were kind of like smaller Godzilla kaiju. Well, we've taken it up a notch, and these are more Lovecraftian. So what happens in the second one is they find one of these ancient beasts, and I don't want to spoil it, but there's a reason they have to get to this kaiju and get inside this kaiju, and it's a lot larger. So it's a bigger bigger world, bigger. We just expand on everything.
Yeah, and when we were speaking with Rembrew about this next volume during one of our conference calls, what I like that he said is that like Kaiju Score was his first time ever drawing kaiju, and so he's excited to have these kaiju start to develop and explore as he's also doing that with the artwork, with bringing in more of the Cthulhu, Lovecraftian type stuff as well. So speaking on that artwork, has it been great, like being able to see these ideas come to life on the page with Rembrew illustrating them?
I can't say enough about Rem. If he would have me, I would work with Rem the rest of my career. Um, his style and his dynamic and his character work and the energy that he brings, like I don't ever want to stop making books with him. He's just incredible. And yeah, it's the first time he drew kaiju, and wow, like what they look like. So now I'm like, okay, what else do I want Rem to draw? What else can I ask him to do that he's never drawn before? Because he knocked it out of the park, and I loved the kaiju in the first series, and I loved the kaiju in the second series. And I think with Rem, I don't think I've ever once said I don't like this panel, and I don't mean that like I don't like it, but I mean I don't think I've ever once told him this panel doesn't do what it's intended to do. I don't think I've ever. There's been a couple times where revisions where I had to change something and he had to change something because it didn't work, but that was on my end. But he's one of the few artists I've ever worked with where he makes everything better, and I get it, and I'm like, okay, this is amazing. I have no notes. You not only looks good, you just communicated everything well, and you've added another dimension. I really can't say enough about him. So.
Yeah, and even JD Smith on Twitch says artwork looks rad, and Forrest Bates says sold, like he is on board for all of this. And everything that we've spoken about so far is available at your local comic book shop, including Volume 1 of Kaiju Score, Volume 1 of Campisi, the Dragon Incident, and Issue 1 of Volume 2 of Kaiju Score just this last week. But we have yet another title that we just announced a couple weeks ago for you, which is Astronaut Down. And this is a very exciting, again, like I don't know how you come up with this stuff, and I'm mad that like nobody else did. They're so good. And so though it's called Astronaut Down, they're not exactly astronauts the way we think of them. So I wanted you to take it away and describe this wonderful title to all of our watchers right now.
Astronaut Down basically is what if there was an astronaut program for traveling into alternate realities. So what it does is it takes that entry point of, say, NASA, and it applies all the way they train and all this stuff, and it looks at going into alternate realities through the lens of an astronaut. Astronaut literally means traveling in space. So these are not literal astronauts. We symbolically use the word astronaut. I guess it would more like be a quantum notch or something like that. But that didn't really get across what I wanted to get across, which was that this book is about the theory of an astronaut, the philosophy of an astronaut, what astronauts go through, sacrifice they go through, what it means to be an astronaut. But we're gonna put that into traveling into alternate realities in a forced mission that they're not ready to take because something is happening in the world. And so they have to save the world. So they have to travel. These astronauts have to travel into other realities. So again, it looks at it through that lens, like The Right Stuff, Apollo 13. So, what if Apollo 13, and I don't want to say Quantum Leap, but you know what I mean? Like, it's that kind of thing. It's that sort of thing.
Yeah, are those the things that inspired you for this title, or where did this title come from for you?
No, I've never seen an episode of Quantum Leap. I've never seen an episode of Sliders. But at the same time, I felt like, Quantum Leap is a pretty good sort of there was a big inspiration for this and the book resembles nothing of its inspiration. And it was a movie called Possessor. And it was by Cronenberg's son. And it was an excellent movie, and it had a unique aesthetic, and it was about minds traveling into other bodies to be able to like assassinate people so they couldn't be traced back. Had a just wonderful aesthetic. I was like, man, I want to do something like that. And this is so far removed from that but that inspired me to sort of, and again, it doesn't resemble anything when you read it, so don't expect it to be Possessor out there for anyone watching. It just I don't know. And then it came out really fast. Like, it came out so quick, and I pitched it to Aftershock pretty quick after I came up with it, and Aftershock accepted it. I outlined it quick. The scripts came relatively quick for me. So I don't know. I don't know where this came from. Like, this came so fast. It's hard to explain. And then I started, playing with the idea of what it takes to be an astronaut and applying it to this scenario. There was no not like Kaiju Score, not like Campisi. This just spilled out of me.
Yeah. And now, so this time you aren't with Rembrew, but this time you are with Rubine, who we've worked with before with Search for Who. So how has that been working with Rubine with this very, cross-dimensional type artwork and storyline?
Oh, he's fantastic. He and Brisky, the colorist, they're great. And the thing about Rubine is that his work is so clean and so easy to distinguish different things and follow different things and character features, and he has just this very pointed, deliberate, like he delivers the story in such a perfect way. And I couldn't be happier. It's a sci-fi book, and he was perfect for it. And I threw in, in the script, I said, what kind of inspires me here? Let's do something like, we want to put some NASA in here, and I kind of like the Akira aesthetic, and I kind of like Moebius, and I was like, just throw all that in, because, and it goes back to Frank Miller once said that, like, for Sin City, what he used to do is he used to take like a gun from the 30s or 20s, I don't know, or cars from the 50s. He would take an element of something that was the most like, what was the best time period for this thing, and then he put it in Sin City. So that, and I was like, oh, I kind of want this to feel like a 70s astronaut book, kind of 70s NASA, and then at the same time, because it's iconic, and then at the same time, throw in some Kira to make sure we sci-fi it up. And he nailed it. He did a wonderful job just blending all these things together. And I really hope people enjoy it. It's my first straight sci-fi book, and as a whole, I love every issue, but as a whole, I like where it goes, and I'm really excited for people to read it and to see Rubine's art, because he knocked it out of the park.
Yeah. And you're like, it's great saying that, like, you're now doing sci-fi, because it feels like you've done every flavor of type of genre. And like you said, you're most drawn towards crime, but there is no crime involved with this one. So how does that feel for you?
Well, I've written horror western before called Death Comes to Dillinger, which it did very well when it came out. It got me my work at DC, actually. So it was a book that did well. So I'm comfortable switching genres. You know, I don't know. I'm not always happy with how things turn out, but at the same time, I feel like this turned out well. And switching genres is I feel at home doing it. I mean, I write humor. My first book was a book called Crackers about two birds in a cage that would just foul mouth and scream at each other, and it was humor. And so I don't think I or other writers, a lot of other writers say, oh, we're this writer or we're that writer. We're writers, and I think a lot of us think we can do anything at times, meaning we can pull off any genre, and we can, in style and tone. I know I like to write humor. I know I like to write horror, and I really enjoyed writing sci-fi. So hopefully I did a good job, and if I didn't, Rubine will pick up the slack and make me look good. So.
Yeah. And overall, as a writer, for you, why is it that you chose the comic book idiom to tell your stories versus, script writing or, novel writing? What is it for you that comic books really is your favorite, platform to be able to tell these stories?
The idea, the blending, and if you talk to anyone in comics who works in comics, and they go into this in detail, and I'm blanking out, Understanding Comics by McLeod. The sequential art form is very unique, and the idea of how the words and the words and images work together and blend together and juxtapose each other, it's unlike anything else, because it's a still image that's still flowing with words, and there are rhythms in it that are unlike any other medium. You can stop and start, and the other thing is that you can do anything. You need the imagination to do it, and the artist can do anything. I mean, and the artist, I say you need as in me, but it's a collaborative thing. But we can do anything in comics, and you want 1,000 spaceships, you're going to make the artist mad, but at the same time, you're capable of doing 1,000 spaceships in some panel. But what's really cool is you can strip all that down and have a character in negative space for more impact at the same time, and then you can go back and forth for more power. And there are techniques, and there's a craft here that is just unlike anything. It's just unique to itself, and just like movies are, and just like prose is. So that's why I love comics.
It's a great answer. There's so much to love about the comic book way of telling stories and reading stories and experiencing stories that you can't really do with movies or books or anything like that. So fantastic. Where can everybody find you on the social media to hear about, next coming projects or anything else that you're up to?
On Twitter, James Patrick, but with like 1K, no C. It's just like James Patrick. James Patrick, comic writer, and you can type in Harley Quinn or whatever and do a search, and you can find me. And Facebook, I have a Facebook page, and so Facebook, Twitter, those are the two platforms I use. I don't use Instagram. So anybody wants to find me, I'll friend you, or I'll follow you back, and I appreciate it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, James. It's been such a pleasure to have you here today. Please, just keep writing all this awesome stuff. I can't wait to enjoy the rest of Kaiju Score, Steal from the Gods, as well as Astronaut Down coming out soon. So thank you again so much for joining. And for all those watching, we are going to have some wonderful incentives for you for sticking around. We have a live sale coming up with Kaiju Score stuff, Campese stuff, as well as a variant cover of this newest issue that just came out yesterday from Mike Ruth. So stick around after that, after this quick commercial break. But thank you again, James, and hopefully we'll see you soon in person.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been waiting to do this. I couldn't wait to do this. And I appreciate you and Aftershock and all the opportunities that you guys have given me and all the books that you guys are publishing from me. It's just been incredible. So thank you.
Thank you. It's been such an honor. All right, everybody, stay tuned. We'll be right back. Thank you all so much for joining this happy hour and live sale with James Patrick. Make sure that you join us for this coming Tuesday for the Aftershock EpiCenter on Tuesday, April 19th to talk about the new comic book day titles coming out for this coming Wednesday, including We Live Volume 2, Issue 2, and Land of the Living Gods number 3. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe wherever you're watching this, and we'll see you next week. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the happy hour. And now it is time for the live sale. Some awesome stuff coming through. And Paul Dunn, thank you so much for your compliment on the interview. And Astronaut Down, I'm also severely excited for. So we have some awesome stuff. And as always, what I'll do is I'll go through the list and then I will tell you where you can buy all these incredible stuff. But so first up, we have the happy hour variant from Mike Ruth of Kaiju Score Volume 2. Issue 1 of Steal from the Gods. We only have 100 available of these at this time for $15 each. And then we also have Kaiju Score. We have a bundle. So basically, once we did our announcement about who was going to be writing the Kaiju Score script, we sold out of everything, including the trade paperback, but we're going to do a special package for you guys. So we're going to have Kaiju Score, the complete series, issue 1 through 4, with a number 1 Tony Harris variant. And these are all first printings of each of these issues. So we're going to bring them together for, we have 20 available of this bundle at $25 each. And bringing back a happy hour variant from Mike Ruth of Campese number 1, and we only have 150 of these left, and we're selling them for an even better price of $10 each. And now we have some graded books for you guys. So for this sale, we have both a Campese graded at number 1 happy hour. That is the same one from Mike Ruth. So we only have 10 available for $40 each, as well as a Campese graded at number 1 cover A. We have 15 available of these at a low, low price of $25. And both of these graded books are 9.8 graded, so excellent condition. And last but not least, we have 2 different things from We Live Volume 2, number 1, Age of the Palladians. We have the WonderCon exclusive cover, and we have it both in the metal covers. So we have 10 each. So there is a white cover and a black cover that go together. These are 2 separate storylines, 2 separate stories that come together into one story. So make sure if you buy one, you got to get the other. So we have 10 of each, and these are available at $75. And this is all that we have left from our WonderCon incredible show that we just had 2 weeks ago, How Time Flies, as well as the same exact cover, but we have the original, just regular print of the We Live Volume 2, number 1 WonderCon, Dan Panosian, and we have only 100 each of these left. So if you want to be able to kind of be able to read the story, check them out, but still have the wonderful WonderCon Dan Panosian exclusive, we're selling these at $10 each, but we're limiting these at $5 because these sell out pretty quickly and we don't obviously want to run out just for selling them, reselling them online. So now, for all of these, you can head to aftershockcomics.com, our brand new website that we just launched recently, and you can click on that. I don't know if we'll be able can we drop a link in as well, just for all those that want to? There it is. I saw it just as I said it. So click on that link that is in the comments. You can jump right in there and go for it. So I'm going to talk about these titles a little bit more. I'm just going to go through the list one more time, Vanna White style of talking about them. So after the first thing that we have is the Aftershock Happy Hour variant from Mike Ruth, and I'm so excited because he is going to be our next guest on May 12th because I don't know if you guys follow him on Instagram, but one of the latest things he did like this swamp thing using a bone that he found in the woods and ink, and just without like sketching it out for, it makes me angry how talented you are, Mike Ruth. It's very frustrating. So we have our happy hour variant from him of Kaiju Score Volume 2, Issue 1 of Steal from the Gods. You can see the original cover A behind me that just came out yesterday. And we only have 100 of these available, and we're going to be selling them at $15 each, only for the next 24 hours. I forgot to mention that earlier. This sale is only for the next 24 hours. After that, they are available, but more expensive. We have Kaiju Score the complete series of issue 1 through 4, first printing with an edition of the #1 Tony Harris variant. So that's going to be 5 comic books, and we have 20 of these bundles available at only $25 each. So that is a really good deal, especially for these first prints that are going to be very worth a lot of money, especially once the first movie comes out from them. We also have the Happy Hour variant from Mike Ruth of Campese, the Dragon Incident #1, and we only have 150 of these left, but we're slashed the price of this, so they're only $10 each at this point. And then we have several graded books for you. So we have that same Happy Hour variant of Campese, the Dragon Incident #1, but we only have 10 of them available at $40 each, as well as the cover A, Campese #1, the Dragon Incident. And we only have 15 of these available, but at the low price of $25 each. And for any of those who were not able to join us at WonderCon, we are selling our exclusive WonderCon What We Have Left, which is not much, of these issues. So there is a black and a white of the metal version of this Dan Panosian WonderCon exclusive, and we only have 10 of each of those at $75 each. As well as we have it in the regular form of the We Live Volume 2, Issue 1 of the WonderCon Dan Panosian exclusive. We have 100 of these available, but you are limited to 5 because we know that this is going to be we're going to sell a lot of these, and so we're only doing those for $10 each. So really exciting about that. Thank you, Creed, for that question. What was the print run for the Dan Panosian We Live covers? So for the We Live metal covers, that was only 50. We only did 50 of those, as well as the Dan Panosian covers for the regular covers. We actually did 200 of those. So that is all that there is. So that's why we're limiting it, because this is going to be another huge hit from the Miranda Brothers. Very excited about that. And if you are looking for when you can get some signed stuff from the Miranda Brothers from us, make sure to look up for New York Comic Con, because we are going to have them at our booth for New York Comic Con. Very excited about that. So we have so much stuff coming your way, guys. Make sure that you do follow us on all the social media platforms, wherever you're watching this. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We are going to be coming back with more shows. The first show that we have coming up next is going to be Mike Ruth on May 12th. So we're going to have so much of his stuff from us at very slashed prices as well. We are going to be at Planet Comic Con in only 2 weeks. I will not be there. I'll actually be at the Prague Comic Con randomly. But we always love having you guys a part of our family. Make sure to stay safe out there. Wash your hands, wear your mask, keep your distance, only read dangerously. And we'll see you all for the Aftershock EpiCenter on this coming Tuesday. And until then, have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to remind you that we have another happy hour coming up on May 12th with the unstoppable artist for all of our variants here at Aftershock for our happy hours, Mike Ruth. So make sure to add it to your calendars for Thursday, May 12th at 5 p.m. Eastern. Pour yourself a drink and we'll have some fun. And now let's get to interview James Patrick.